Hello everyone and welcome to That British Show podcast. My name is Alex A from That British Guy channel and I'm joined here by the legendary Oliver from This Is Nice This channel. Say hello. Hello. So what are we talking about today on this podcast?
Well, we're going to be talking about British television.
British television.
Yes, it's basically like American television, but smaller and kind of superior.
And much better in every fashion.
So you have the BBC. It's arguably the biggest media institution in the world. I mean, that's arguable. You could say that CNN or some other far off channel would be the biggest media institution in the world, but BBC is a very big media institution, and it's been running since just before the Second World War, after the Great War, when radio came into fashion.
Yes.
I had the pleasure of actually visiting the old BBC studios in 2011 before it was shut down, and it was kind of like an old school, and it's kind of where my nostalgia lives. It lives in the hallways of the old BBC building. It's very nice there.
Well, I've had the pleasure of standing outside the ITV building, so I think I'm pretty privileged there.
Oh yes.
So ITV is the other major British channel, which was set up because people didn't like the way the BBC was all publicly owned. So it was a private company. And, they do
independent television, isn't that what it stands for, ITV?
Yes, independent television. And they do good shows, but I think the shows are very different from the shows that are done on the BBC.
It's slightly more flashier. I think BBC kind of looks a bit more... It's more slick.
Yeah.
And it runs... And it is a well-oiled machine, the BBC. And the ITV is a bit more independent and out there. But, yeah. And then we have Channel 4 and Channel 5, which are kind of two competing broadcasters. Channel 5, obviously, is where Big Brother is aired, which is, if you don't know, it's been living under a particularly huge rock for the past, say, 10 years. Big Brother is a big reality TV show where people are put in this tiny house and they're made to fight to the death and win a bunch of money. And there's celebrities in there and whatever. It's not my kind of show, but a lot of sort of mums watch it and things like that. And obviously on Channel 4, which Big Brother used to be on, it's kind of like you have BBC, which is the old grandfather, and then you have ITV, which is kind of like the mother, and then you have the Channel 4, which is kind of like the angsty teen. They're a public broadcaster, Channel 4, but they seem to always sort of broadcast documentaries about incredibly obese people that are dying of of obesity, and they do have some incredibly dark documentaries, but they are a public broadcaster, so I do find that pretty confusing how they kind of get away with that. But yeah,
I mean, and then you've got the kind of like the rebellious uncle, which is Dave, which basically don't give a monkeys really about what they show.
They're basically the BBC's pet. Like, that's where all the old shows go on Dave. Like, you have a Top Gear and
Red Dwarf
and Jeremy Clarkson's shenanigans, and that all goes onto Dave, and yeah.
You find a lot of
also he's sponsored by Halfords.
Yes.
Other garages are available if you're just wondering out there. But yeah.
Yeah, and on Dave you do get a lot of the kind of the comedy shows like Mock the Week and Last Leg. I don't think Last Leg's on Dave, is it? That's BBC, isn't it?
The Last Leg, no, it isn't. It's on Channel 4.
Channel 4.
Which is, if you don't know what Last Leg is, it's this Australian man. We saw him in real life when we literally were in London, and we stumbled across the premiere for the Bad Education movie, which was coincidentally a series on BBC Three before it got shut down, obviously.
And I have to admit, I did get Jack Whitehall to sign Eminem's bag.
Yes. Yeah, that was funny. That was so funny.
That was funny.
And he was there, the guy from The Last Leg, the guy with the one leg, he's an Aussie. He was there, and really tall guy. Yeah.
So that's basically what the television is. Now, if we rewind back to the BBC a bit, maybe we can discuss some of the shows that have run on different channels and how successful they have been.
Well, I'm not sure what the most successful program on BBC would be. Probably the news. It's not really a program, but it's the longest running thing on the BBC from when it started in its infancy in the 30s, I think. When it was broadcasting on radio. But also you have things like EastEnders, which is kind of like the rival to ITV's Coronation Street. But obviously, the elephant in the room is Doctor Who. That has been running on BBC
over 50 years now.
Yeah.
And the thing about Doctor Who is it was good, all the classic stuff, then it got really bad, then it got good again, and now it's bad again.
Yeah.
So,
Goddamn Peter Capaldi.
Yeah, well, it isn't his fault, it's more Moffat, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I see.
New producer coming in, so hopefully that'll be a bit better. But the BBC won't sell Doctor Who, it's their child.
But it's BBC intellectual property. I mean, it's like that baby. Like, they're never going to sell it. Like,
no.
Maybe if the BBC went on a holiday to like Bangkok and it got really like hammered and then like ended up in an alleyway like 2 a.m. and accidentally sold its baby, then maybe Doctor Who would die. But that won't happen. So I think Doctor Who's safe. But in the 70s and I think the early 80s, now ITV always has to have an answer to BBC, and Doctor Who, you go imagine in the 80s and the 70s, was really, really, really popular amongst the kids and the families and everything. It still kind of is or was, and ITV's answer to Doctor Who was Sapphire and Steel, which was a programme that was on ITV in the 70s and 80s, as I've just said, starring Joanna Lumley as Sapphire. And I can't remember who played Steel, but it was kind of this. It was similar, and it had eerie moments, and it was similar in style to Doctor Who. And you can, in the David Tennant series, you can quite clearly see that its writing style influenced the David Tennant series. You can really, really see that. And but it's an alright watch. Pretty boring, but it's from the 70s and 80s, so you can kind of excuse it for that.
Yeah. I mean, but there is one thing to talk about on British television. There's lots of pointless daytime television programmes.
Yes.
And there's a lot of them.
Oh, God.
I mean, for example, we got the Jeremy Kyle Show, which is basically the B-Tech version of what's his name, Dr. Phil.
Oh, yes, Dr. Phil.
B-Tech version, Jeremy Kyle's the B-Tech version of that, pretty much.
Yes.
But instead of having like psychopaths and crazy people on the Jeremy Kyle Show, we just get complete scum, really. People who have like 4 teeth, got every kind of STD available, and they walk in wearing their tracksuit, saying some kind of incomprehensible language.
It's snake tongue.
Yeah, it is snake tongue.
And thank you, America, for bringing that to us. We do appreciate it. With your gangster culture. Thank you very much. But you've also got programs like Judge Rinder. Basically, if you took the Jeremy Kyle Show, you put it in a law setting, and it was like a middle class. It's like a middle class Jeremy Kyle, with like a really flamboyant gay host.
Yeah.
And Jeremy Kyle's he's pretty flamboyant, but he's strange. He's like a house mum's dream.
Be a bit scary at some points.
Yes.
When he starts shouting.
Yeah, he's like a music teacher. It's like you don't want to get on the wrong side of music teachers. God no. But
yeah.
Judge Rinder it's a middle class version of Jeremy Kyle, but obviously in the law setting, and it's actually a court. So Judge Judy, there's like an inside joke, like a hee moment on Judge Rinder, where like you get these like dumbasses that come and going, I'm basically taking him to court because he stole Brussels sprout off my plate, right? And they go, and then it's like, you remind me of what's her name, Judge Judy, and he goes like, oh yes, like dismisses them, things like that. And then he always sort of like when there's like a pathetic case like that, like you're suing someone from like a ridiculous cause, he'll always bring up the fact, Judge Rinder, that he went to Africa because he was like a law guy, like he's like a judge, obviously, and he went to Africa and he had to like prosecute like these people that did like massive war crimes in like the Congo and places like that. So like he'll always bring up like, I went to the Congo and had to put up with war criminals and mass paedophiles and things like that. You know, and speaking of paedophiles, let's go back to the BBC. We all know what happens.
With our big man, Jimmy Savile. Jim will fix it, everyone.
Oh god, oh god. Now I've seen a few episodes. Well, no, I haven't seen a few episodes. I've seen.
Sorry about that little cut there. We had some mic problems, but we're back now.
Hello.
Right, so where were we? We were on about the subject of Mr. Savile, I believe.
Yes. Well, we were talking about Jim will fix it, and the time sort of before Savile was convicted. Now, before Jimmy Savile, I know this is kind of turned into a talk about Jimmy Savile, but I think it sort of plays a crucial role. He's in charge of you. You know, you don't fuck about with Jimmy Savile, who's pretty much in charge of the BBC. Like, the BBC's his bitch. And, you know, and he owned all these hospitals and things. Now, before he died, about 10 years before he died, Louis Theroux, who's a documentary maker, made a film about him, and it was very revealing. It was a documentary film, and he was a creep. He was a creep. He was, you know, they filmed him creeping women, you know, like staring at women, leering at them, things like that. And after he died, it was an explosion. You know, there was all these documentaries around the world being made about Jimmy Savile, and you know, the BBC stopped for that year. I think when did he die? In 2012, was it?
I think he was around about that time, wasn't it?
Yeah, because we were at school, and I remember that we did a lesson about Jimmy Savile, but it wasn't about his because it was when he died, and it was, I think, like a few days before he came out about this whole sex thing, and like it was a lesson about like all the good things he did for charity. Now, I'm not doubting him when it comes to charity, but he's a monster. So that's Jimmy Savile covered. I don't think we should say anything too
revealing,
radical.
Yeah.
Or, revealing or radical, because people are going to get offended or whatever sort of stuff.
I mean, though, it did happen to Rolf Harris as well, didn't it?
Yes, and now he's in prison in the UK, not in Australia. I just found out that the other day. I thought he was in prison in Australia, but no, he's in prison in the UK because, you know, some paedophile offence, obviously, but you know, and he was Jimmy Savile's best pal. Yeah.
Does tell you a lot.
Does.
However, there's been so many false convictions on celebrities after those two, you know.
Yes.
Like,
you know, and
Sir Cliff Richard, he was falsely accused. Same with Bruce Forsyth.
Yeah, Bruce Forsyth. Yeah. Well, let's move on now to some greener pastures.
Yes.
Shall we talk about Sky News?
Sky News.
Because I mean, you start.
Right.
What you know.
What do I know about Sky News? Well, from what I've gathered of Sky News, I mean, I don't actually own the channel, but...
No, I don't. Well, no, my brother does, but whatever. From
what I've seen of it, it's not the best news channel there.
I think that's putting it lightly.
Yeah.
Is that just a food channel? No, it's fucking abhorrent. He's like so poorly, like it has so much money pumped into it because it's like a private like news network, but it's like it's so like high budget. It's so high budget. It's low budget. Like, you know, you have them films that are so bad it's good. Like, you know, films like The Room where it's so funny. You're telling me about these films like that. And like Sky News is like
bit of Cool Cat Saves the Kids. So bad it's good.
Yes, exactly. That type of bad, but it's very biased to the Conservative government,
Of course, it's the Conservatives. Of course, they probably fund it themselves. Miss
Yes.
Theresa May up there. You know, that's probably how it goes.
Definitely, that's how it goes. Well, because there was a thing in what was it? What year? 2010, I think, when the elections happened.
Yeah.
And David Cameron was elected in.
Mr. Pigfucker.
Yeah. And there was this Labour MP that was on the TV. He was under Gordon Brown. And there was this massive argument between like this Conservative like news reporter and like the thing, and it was like I don't know if you find it on YouTube or whatever, but it's quite funny, and it was like an ongoing feud every time this like Labour MP was on the thing. They were like, no, you're not gonna, like, they're gonna like both put forcing each other's opinions on each other. It was a mess. It was a total mess.
Such is British politics, though.
Yes. Oh, and that's a whole nother kettle of fish.
Probably a podcast later coming up. British politics.
Definitely. We should have to do that in the future. But for now, that's a whole different ballpark.
Back to television.
Back to television. Well, what other news networks are there to moan about? I mean, there's not much else. I mean, well, actually, I thought of one more.
All right.
Sky Sports News.
Sky Sports News. Ooh.
Well, I'm no fan of sports, so.
Neither am I. It doesn't really appeal, but it's just so pointless.
Yeah.
You've got Sky News. Why do you need a Sky Sports News?
And isn't it called? Isn't its full name Sky Gillette Fusion or something like that? Because it's sponsored by Gillette. Because it's like a private network channel. So it's like. It's ridiculous.
It's awful.
And obviously, as you would know, it just covers sport, mainly football, which I happen to hate anyway. But you know, that's again for another time, as this is a British podcast, and there's like a whole football culture in Europe and the UK, you know, where you kind of force, you know, if you have like a macho daddy that kind of forces you into liking football, and it's truly horrible. And like Sky Sports News is like the outlet of that. But that's like the hive. That's like that hive. Bit
of match of the day, but done shit.
Yeah, I mean, match of the day is.
It had the music, which I think was the whole point of that.
Yes. And it's quite nice to put on at night. If you've got a TV in your room, you just stick it on, and you can sort of listen to it in the background. It's all right. Match of the day.
Yeah.
But I don't watch it because it's boring to me.
Well, yeah. Same here with me. I've got many other things I'd rather be doing. Match of the day.
It's on the BBC. It's kind of just like the white noise of the BBC. What you just have it on in the background at night, and it's watched by mainly like dads and whippersnappers that like football. So yeah.
Yes. Another thing we could mention is how easy it is to access the adult channels.
Yeah, I know this one.
You just go back, from channel 1, and there you go. You've got Babe Station,
yeah,
Adult Swim, Rabbit, Gay Rabbit.
No, I thought is Adult Swim a porn channel?
Is it?
Because I thought Adult Swim was like Cartoon Network Adult Swim, where they have Robot Chicken on there and stuff.
Yeah, I think but it's adult content, isn't it? I mean, you really wouldn't want your 3-year-old child watching it, would you?
No, definitely not. Well, saying that, when I was a kid, I used to watch Terminator all the time, so you know, I had a pretty rough upbringing. You know?
Yeah, well, I watched Doctor Who, so I'm a bit of a fan of that. So you can tell I'm very opinionated on that, but. They're so easy to access, these channels that are so shouldn't be.
I'm not complaining about it, but you know, it's just, you know, they are out there. If you look for them, you will find them. You know, I remember I went around my dad's house, and I've got like a little Freeview TV in my room, and he was just flicking through the channels, and he accidentally went on the adult channels, and it was really awkward. So. You know, that's one of like the sort of like bad points of adult channels, but you know,
yeah,
they're pretty cool, aren't they?
Another thing that I will bring up that's definitely important, that the channels, the things you get, not midday, but it's towards the end of the day, but not quite evening. and you get all like the
Right.
country, living in the country, house move, all those kind of things.
Come and live in Wales. There you go. Come and live in Yorkshire. Come and live in Dundee. Come and live in Timbuktu.
But they've they've extended it out, and then we've got like Spain and France.
I was watching that yesterday. Weird couple on there. Strange.
Yeah, and then you have all these coasts. Then you've got the coast or country one, which is like they're competing. It baffles me how people watch it.
And the people that always like are on them programs that move, and the Australian one, I think you mentioned that. But the people that are always kind of like middle class weird people, and say if like an old couple, the wife looks like a hag, and the husband is like a creepy paedophile clown with like long frizzy hair. It's just like, oh, the weirdest couples. I was watching the Spain one yesterday.
Gonna quote you on that.
Yeah.
The woman looks like the hag, and the man looks like a creepy weird pedophile clown.
Yes. Yeah.
Well then.
People that move on there are strange.
Yes, no, they are. Another thing that's very British you'll find on television is a lot of police shows, like police interceptors and things like that, and you don't really get them in the US, do you?
No, you don't really. There's a different pedigree of police programs over there, isn't it? Really, it's more. Yeah, I've noticed when you do get police programs in the US, they're always like glorifying the police force. But over here, most of the time, they're actually kind of like making the police officer look like a douche. Like, a lot of the time.
They do, don't they?
Yeah, they do. That's something I've noticed. But, you know, difference in viewing satisfaction. I don't know what I'm trying to say.
I don't think any of us do really, do they?
No, I know you got to have like third-party channels. Like, I was flicking through the channels one time, and then I found this channel that was like this third-party news broadcast that looked like it had the budget of 1p. Like, it really looked horrible. Like the animations all looked like they were like downloaded off Movie Maker or something like that. I do. And also you have other like little kick-ass little like news broadcasters like Jinx, which is like this gaming channel in the UK, and I'm sure they have loads of them in the US. But I think the advantage of British TV is that Britain is like a very compact country, but the US is massive. Places like the US and Canada are huge. So you have all these competing different news networks, competing tiny little insignificant news networks and things. But in the UK, you only really have the BBC and like your
and the
regional,
ITV.
like, and ITV and like your regional news and like
But
you know,
the thing is, there is a channel called BBC America, which is you know,
it's quite a dumb name. British Broadcasting Channel, America, like call it ABC. Oh no, you can't really call that because it's an American Broadcasting Channel. Well, yeah, there you go.
Or ABBC.
ABBC.
Sounds like a BBC blooming kids channel with all their CBBS and CBBC, doesn't it?
Does it? It sounds like a kids channel. Yeah. Speaking of kids channels, when we went to the BBC studios, you know that on CBBS, on like CBBS, kids, like we went into like the studio for that, and it's like tiny, like literally like there's a garden bit, and then there's the actual studio, and it's literally just like it's tiny, literally it's a tiny small set, and it's the camera works miracles at the BBC. It's a tiny place, and you remember do you remember on children's BBC there used to be like the little studio that had the talking cactus in it?
Yes.
Yeah, we went into that, and that was also like tiny, but it's like it's weird, it's strange. Anyways, but you've got, and there's this kind of secret ongoing war between ITN and BBC, and what ITN is, it's this massive news organisation that comprises of ITV News, Channel 4 News, and Channel 5 News, I think. And it's this company known as ITN that runs the three. And the ITN centre is right next to where Good Morning This Morning is filmed. You know, with like Holly Willoughby on that. That is filmed in the ITN centre,
Yeah.
overlooking the river. So, and it's a big place, the ITN centre. And when you walk into the ITN centre, which I've walked past there and I've seen inside of it, you look down the end of the hall, and you know Channel 4 News. It's sort of like, have you seen Channel 4 News?
Yes.
It's like they sit in this glass room, and there's like a view of a hall.
Yeah.
Well, when you walk past the ITN centre, you know what I mean? If you look to the end of the hall, that's where the actual studio is. So, in the ITV News, that's like all that, you know, all that shit that's behind them, like the glass.
It's all completely green screened, isn't it?
Green screen, yeah. But with Channel 4 News, like, it's literally like a real glass. It's like real glass. It's looking over like the office. It's a pretty cool set, and I think Channel 4 News is actually quite good. I think it's quite underrated.
I prefer Babe Station News personally.
Oh, right. Yeah, what current affairs do they update you on?
You wouldn't want to know. But another thing you notice a lot of the time is the Americans steal our shows.
Yeah. But sometimes it is for the better. Like with The Office, the American rendition of it, that was actually quite good. That was quite a good rendition of it. I obviously prefer the British version.
Yeah.
Because I'm a limey fuck. But what I am saying is that British comedy is generally more grounded in sort of the British grimness of it all. You know, the sort of cold days, rainy weather.
I mean, yeah. I mean, just look at what the Americans did to the the In-Betweeners. Have you seen that? It's awful.
It was awful. It was.
It lost all the magic.
Because I don't think school is very different in America than it is in the UK. I think, the two things. Writing, schools are different in America, and so is writing.
Yes.
So you put them together, and you take the in-betweeners, and you do the exact same formula, it's not going to work. But you take something like The Office, which is in a work environment, and theoretically shouldn't work, but you put good writers behind it, and good actors, but, you know, people that aren't that well known, but are relatively known, then, you know, it's a good recipe. But with the in-betweeners, it wasn't a good recipe. It
didn't work.
It was a disaster. It was an absolute disaster. And then that's not to mention the whole radio side of things. I mean, there's like eight BBC radio channels. There's like BBC Radio 2, I think it is, that I listen to because Mark Commode's on there and he's this movie reviewer who reviews movies. And there's all these different, just tiny little channels that no one really cares about on the radio. And obviously there's BBC Kent, which is, you know, our region. And there's all these different, you know, BBC London, BBC Essex, BBC Yorkshire, whatever, you know. And yeah. So,
I mean, another thing that the Americans did still is even the way that they're really crap shows, but like the Real Housewives, they stole that.
yeah.
You've now got like the Real Housewives of Seattle, is it, or something like that?
I'm not sure. Was that the other way round? Because if it was originally British and it's now American, I don't give a shit because that's quite a shit program. It's like it's a housewife program, isn't it? It's like it's shit that mums watch.
To dream, you know.
Yeah.
Thinking, oh, I wish I was there.
Yeah. Whilst reading their like gossip magazine, you know. It's futile. It's futile. You know. And you have shows like that, and obviously Big Brother, which I've mentioned, and that's a massive program. There's obviously Big Brother America and things like that. But you know, yeah.
I mean, but one thing that the Americans definitely don't have with their TV is an Ant or a Dec. They don't have that duo that we have.
Yeah, but I can't exactly call Ant and Dec like the best duo. I think like there was a lot more iconic.
Hale and Pace, Morecambe and Wise.
Yeah.
Laurel and Hardy, even.
The two Ronnies, you know.
The two Ronnies, yeah.
That, you know, they're classics. I don't think Ant and Dec aren't there because they're not that witty. I think a few years ago they were a bit more witty, but they're not that witty. They have their own. That's like Saturday Night Takeaway, don't they? Which is
an all right show.
It's all right. It's a family. It's on ITV. It's the sort of shit they broadcast, but it's a family show. It's a family thing, you know. Whereas on BBC, you won't really find that. You know, during the day you get boring fucking, you know, game shows like Tenable and things like that. I think no, that's ITV or whatever. There are all these like
game shows.
Tenable is on ITV, I think, and that's hosted by Warwick Davis, who's a great guy, by the way. I love Warwick Davis. Not having a go. I love you, Warwick Davis, but Tenable is very boring, and I think Tenable was an original program that was originally on ITV or something, but I don't think it.
Yeah, I mean, moving on to game shows, though, there's actually some alright game shows here. We've got, like, Tipping Point and The Chase.
Yeah.
Which are alright, you know? I mean,
yes.
You watch them to point at the people, laugh and go, ha ha, you're stupid.
Yeah.
And that is why we watch game shows here in the UK.
Yeah, there's kind of like an underlining, like, sort of, it's brutal. You know? Yeah,
it is.
It's like cold, hard money that they fight for.
But the thing is,
it's either that on British TV, it's either that on one channel, and you turn it to another, and you turn over to another channel, it's like Andy senselessly killing a dog or something. The other one, you know. And
then on the other one, it's some drama that you don't care about.
Yeah.
Like a 3-part drama. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, I really couldn't care less.
Well, I can't complain about the dramas on BBC. I think that BBC do the best dramas.
I mean, there is a show that I like on BBC that I know not many people do called Death in Paradise.
Right, yeah, I know of that, but I haven't watched it.
I'm quite fond of it. But yeah, BBC do good dramas. I mean, Sherlock, for example.
Oh, that was a success. That was a commercial success.
It was brilliant.
That freaking like rebirthed like Sherlock for like loads of new like young people that wouldn't have known what Sherlock was before. Well, because they're stupid young people, but
and don't read.
You know, yeah, exactly.
But yeah, Sherlock did a lot, and you know what that makes me think with Sherlock? If Stephen Moffat could write and produce that, then what the fuck
who's Stephen Moffat? I've heard of his name. But
he's the guy who writes Sherlock and writes and produces Doctor Who. If he can do Sherlock...
That's where I've heard of him from, Doctor Who.
Yeah, if he can do Sherlock...
Is he that Scottish guy?
No, that was Russell T Davies, I think.
Right, okay.
He did David Tennant. What the fuck is he doing with Doctor Who?
Fucking it up, that's what he's doing.
Yeah, that's what he's doing. But then again, I think it could make a comeback because Doctor Who was really, really bad a while ago with the 7th and 8th Doctor.
Well, there's a new Doctor Who spin-off as well, called Class.
Class, yeah. I haven't actually seen any of that. Have you seen any of it?
I have, and it's similar to Tortured in that it's on quite late because it's more mature than Doctor Who.
Yeah, but then again, you had the Sarah Jane Adventures, didn't you, before Elizabeth Sladen passed away?
Great.
And that was good. And it was for the kids.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the poor lady that played Sarah Jane did pass away.
Elizabeth Sladen, in
2012. Yeah. Which is very unfortunate.
Midway through filming a season as well.
Yeah, it's horrible, that. So I remember after she died, and then they brought out the new Sarah Jane series. I was like, how the bloody have they filmed that? You know, because I knew she died. But you know, I was a dumb kid then.
And they only had like 4 episodes, and I remember watching some of them live, thinking, I hope they finish the season.
Yeah, it's a shame.
I'm a bit senseless in that respect. I'm like, oh, they're dead. They better have finished filming what they're filming.
Sarah Jane was a good series. I fucking missed that. That was great. Do you remember the Clowns episode? Oh, that used to give me the creeps.
Same. That was like so scary.
No, and yeah, you know, but Bradley Walsh, who does the chase.
Yeah.
This is another game show. He had that clown, and this is my impression of him. He used to go, "Hello there." We out of breath, like there's that weird sort of out of breath sound.
Yeah,
and like,
he does.
Oh, he had this strange demeanour. He was like, and like at the end of the like last series, like what was the girl's name that was in it? It was like her assistant.
Rani,
that was it. She was Indian, and she said, "We've defeated the clowns. We've defeated like the like all these. You were saying, listen, to all these aliens down who they defeated. I don't know, for some reason.
Yeah.
We defeated the clowns. I was like, clowns? Are clowns aliens?
Yeah, no, but the clowns, yeah, that was quite
Weren't they all like clockwork or something? And they like chased after them and like.
I can't remember actually. I think they
It was a
were.
museum, like an exhibit or something, wasn't it? Or...
Oh, something rather like that. But
Yeah.
another very British show. Well, we kind of moved past game shows, but was Countdown. Like that is the most British game show you'll ever get.
Yes, Countdown. Right, yeah, Countdown.
Boring.
I used to kind of have it on.
It's a bit boring, isn't it? Really.
Well, I think to call it a bit boring is a bit of an understatement. It's fucking boring, right? It is fucking.
But then when you had 8 out of 10 cats doing it, it was quite.
Yeah.
It was good.
Yeah.
You know, they had all the kind of jokes.
Do they still do that?
I think they do.
Yeah. I haven't watched that in a while. 8 out of 10 cats do Countdown. I've never even really watched 8 out of 10 cats. I mean, it's, it's got that. What's his name? That big tax avoiding guy that
Jimmy Carr.
presents the show. Jimmy Carr, yeah.
Is that it? Is it Jimmy Carr?
Yeah, Jimmy Carr.
He looks like himself, doesn't he?
Yeah, my auntie had seen him in real life like tons of times. Like, she's seen him like at shows and shit like that,
Yeah. Well, I think that wraps up really for British television.
Yeah. Well, what to next time?
What to next time? Well, maybe we could take up and do a very, very interesting one on politics.
Yeah, alright. And what about after that? What about the newspapers? That's an interesting one.
Yeah, that would be an interesting one. We got all the Sun, and it's a bit ironic, having a newspaper called The Sun in the UK, because it's never fucking sunny, is it?
Well, the Sun is just Sun is the Sun. I mean, the Sun is just. I mean, okay. What in the occasion you pick up a newspaper, what newspaper would you pick up?
Me?
Yeah.
I don't know, the cheapest.
What? So you wouldn't you wouldn't pick it up every day. You just say, well, I have a choice of every newspaper. What newspaper would you pick up?
Probably the Daily Telegraph or something like that.
The Daily Telegraph?
Something like that, or the Daily Mail.
Yeah, I have a subscription to the Guardian, so I'm automatically better than everyone because I fucking read the Guardian. So yeah, I actually do. Yeah, so I'm a Guardian guy. I thought you were a Daily Mail guy.
Oh, it's something like that. I just read what has the most interesting story plastered on the front.
Really?
Yeah. I'm a bit... No, me, I love the Kent Messenger. You know that free one you get in the post?
Yeah.
That's...
The Daily Mail, doesn't Piers Morgan write articles for them?
Does he?
Like, yeah, he does.
Well,
that's how he got famous. And that's why he's a bit of a dickhead, really.
Right, well, maybe we should...
Right,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think Piers Morgan is his own podcast in itself.
Yeah.
Right,
Definitely.
well, okay, thank you for listening to this podcast. I'm sure there'll be more out, hopefully this month, but knowing my upload schedule, probably not. Right then. Goodbye.
I'll see you later.
We'll see you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.